Hello, everyone. Going to give you a quick rundown and recap of what I talked about on Sunday. We were looking at the next few chapters of 1 Samuel. We were looking at chapters 9 and 10, where Saul becomes king. And the first bit was all about how often we look at other people and we just want what they've got. Because the Israelites had looked to the Assyrians and said, they've got a king. We want a king. And Samuel, instead of saying the phrase that I think he should have done, which is, if the Assyrians jumped off a cliff, would you do too? He said, all right, you can have one. But the king, they turns out, starts demanding taxes, and before long, they find themselves enslaved, essentially, to this king. So my first question was, what have you elevated in your life that is making demands of you that you can't keep? Maybe it's a payment plan that you signed up to. Maybe it's something that, like gambling, that you started doing a little bit and now you're doing a bit more. Now it's making demands of you that you are struggling to keep, things that are demanding your time or your money or your energy. What have you elevated to that position? Because the Israelites, well, they did that with the king. And then the second thing that I think is interesting in the passage is where Saul is about to be coronated and he starts prophesying. I think this is odd that the first thing the king does in his run up to his coronation is he starts taking the place of the middleman, the intermediary between God and the people. And quite frankly, I don't think he should be there. Because the reason that the people want a king in the first place is because they didn't want to deal directly with God. Sometimes I feel when we want to deal with God, it can be difficult, it's hard work. And part of us, maybe the lazy bits of us, want to say, oh, can't we just delegate that to someone else? And we blame it on others, don't we? If we blame it on the preacher or the worship leader or the church minister or whoever it is, or the books or something. So my second question is, what have you elevated to a position that it should never have been? What men or women have you made gods in your life? What kings have you decided should act as a go-between between yourself and the divine? Where have you separated yourself from the sacred and said, oh, that's someone else's job to be my intermediary? Because the king, he should never have been that. And then we looked a little bit about how in the Gospels we see the story of God becoming king. And Jesus looks for the donkeys and then he gets anointed and then he deals with people's sins. And there's this wonderful passage in 2 Samuel that's then kind of contrasted with Jesus. In the story of Samuel, when they look for Saul to make him king, they say, we can't find him because he's hiding among the baggage. A picture of where the people that we have elevated to positions they shouldn't be, ultimately they leave us in places that are heavy and full of baggage. But when we encounter King Jesus, when we see this new king, when God becomes king, he's not hiding in the baggage, letting us down. He is dealing with the baggage. No longer do we have men and women who we made like gods. Instead, we have a God who looks like a man. We come before a God who has become king. And the challenge, as always, is who's it going to be? Do you pick King Saul? Do you pick King Jesus? Because King Jesus doesn't take second place. Anyway, have fun as you chat about it. Bye.